Hello, everyone. We are all getting situated. Welcome to our Zoom room. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Lindsay. How are you doing? Good.
Good. I've got a mute old echo for Kevin.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Michelle's here.
Hi, Lindsay. Hi, everybody.
Awesome.
I see Curtis and Anne and Carrie and Barbara. Oh my gosh, lots of wonderful familiar faces and lots of new faces. Hello, we have Tracy Million Simmons up here, the Meadowlark publisher, and Kevin Rabas, the man of the hour, up here too.
Hello.
Hey. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Tracy.
Hi. Hello.
Everybody.
Where are you folks today?
Topeka.
Aloha, this is Steve Heller. I'm in Lawrence.
Hey,
Hello, Steve. Hello in Lawrence.
Hi, I'm J.R. Turek, and I'm from Long Island.
Hello.
Oh my gosh.
Long Island.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, Kevin, it's Jen McConnell from
Hey,
Columbus. How are you?
I'm hanging out in Topeka today, Kevin.
Oh, thanks for tuning in.
Hi, Kay.
Hey, hi.
Congratulations, Kevin.
Thanks, Kay.
Yeah, Kevin, congratulations.
Thanks, Bob. Good to see you.
Hardest working man in show business, Kevin Reeves.
Cool.
I agree with that.
Let's see. We have Mound City here, Park City.
Oh, it looks like we have the whole Rabas family involved in this. I see Joyce and Gary and Alicia. So that's very exciting. Thank you for the family support for Kevin. Here, I am Lindsay Garcia, the Meadowlark publicist. It's nice to meet you all if I haven't met you, and it's nice to see a lot of our familiar faces too. I hope you're all doing well tonight. And we really, really appreciate you taking the time to join us. We know Zoom meetings are a common thing these days, so it's really nice that you are interested in spending your Saturday evening like this. So thank you, thank you. We have a very exciting evening planned. Obviously, this is for the book launch of More Than Words, Kevin's newest poetry collection. We are absolutely thrilled to be publishing this book and are feeling so grateful that we get this opportunity to work with Kevin again. And if I may, I would like to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about Kevin and about this book. Let me start by saying that Kevin Rabas is one of the best individuals and authors to work with. He is incredibly kind, creative, talented, fun, patient, prolific, and a multitude of other descriptors about how positive I feel about Kevin Rabas. Every time a book comes out, you know he has at least 2 others in the works, along with a bunch of other creative projects. Did you know that he has 14 other books? And that doesn't even include some of his collaborative projects, like his Poet Laureate project, Kansas Letters to a Young Poet, and Bards Against Hunger. I had the honor of meeting Kevin by accident in 2018. When I went to a poetry reading I wasn't supposed to go to. I was supposed to be out of town, and I wasn't, so I decided to go to one of Kevin's readings. I had never seen a poet drum and read poetry at the same time, nor had I ever heard poetry in Kevin Rabas's style. He was currently serving as the Poet Laureate of Kansas and had been for about a year and had another year to go. My first thought was, no wonder he's our Poet Laureate. At that time, I was just finishing up my bachelor's, and Kevin asked if I would consider pursuing a master's degree at Emporia State University, where he still teaches and serves as the chair of the English, Modern Languages, and Journalism department. I also learned that Kevin's book, Lisa's Flying Electric Piano, was a Kansas Notable Book and Nelson Poetry Book Award winner, and that he received 2 research awards at ESU, and that he also won the Langston Hughes Award for Poetry. Needless to say, I was thoroughly impressed and accepted the opportunity. For 2 years thereafter, I had the privilege of serving as Kevin Rabas's graduate assistant at ESU. I tell you all of this because it was during that time that Kevin asked me to curate a full-length poetry manuscript for him. This is that manuscript. We worked on it, let it rest, polished it, and eventually asked if Tracy would be interested in publishing it. We were beyond thrilled when she accepted it, of course, especially because Kevin had such wonderful experiences working with Tracy and Meadowlark Press with books like Green Bike, Songs from My Father, and Like Buddha Calm Bird. Then, to make things even cooler, I got the opportunity to work with Tracy as a publicist. And knowing my involvement with More Than Words, she was also brave enough to let me take a spin with book layout. Kevin and I got to see this book through its whole creation process together, and now it's finally here. Many of you have it in your hands. Many of you have it up in the mail realm on its way to you. I see your books, Curtis. Fantastic. From loose pages spread across a giant table to this orderly, beautifully bound thing we hold in our hands now is just wow. Kevin, your poetry is always more than words. Your preliminary thought in the book captures exactly what it is that you do. And if I may, I would like to read that to you all. Whatever my life is, I've tried to write it. I've tried to show you some of what I know so that you don't have to live the bad, and so that you can take warmth from the good and know there is so much light out there, both from the sun and from far beyond, like light from a distant star. That light has come a long, long way this night, and like hope, it's there, shining. And if you take great care and look, you can always see that white spark against the dark. Thank you for these pieces of light, Kevin. Let us raise a glass to end toast, if you have one, to Kevin Rabas and all of the light that poetry gives us. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks so very much. Well, thank you so much for gathering today. I know there's so many things we could be doing, and I appreciate you spending some time doing some poetry with me. I'm going to read kind of in order in the book. I'll skip things, but I'm going to read front to back. So this first one is about Thanksgiving and some other things. It's kind of seasonal. Our neighbors say, "Come over today, Thanksgiving," and so we are no longer alone, and eat rice golden with saffron, and raise wine to friendship, both new and lasting, clank glass and spatter blood orange droplets, and spend an evening hovering over a board game, Settlers of Catan. And although we build roads and armies, no one builds walls. And we trade, barter cards, while our young sons swing styrofoam swords in the front yard, the sun sinking around, and tomorrow or Saturday, they say snow and tons of it, and I think ahead months to how it all ends in this part of the country. The crocus poke through the snow, throw back their bonnets, and eye the sun. And I wanted to take just a second to thank Lindsay for curating this, Tracy Million Simmons for editing and publishing it, Becky Provost Roper for the photos on the front, Eric Sonakolb for the layout and design of the cover, Dave Leiker for the author photo, and for my friends and family for the love and support to give me the time to write these poems and share them with you. There are a bunch of sketches near the beginning of this book, and they're kind of haiku-like. And many of them, there's a working title in square brackets, but they're not really titled. So often I won't read the title. I'll just read a number of them in a row here. This next one is also about the folks we spent Thanksgiving with, Irene and Ramiro across the street, our neighbors and great friends. They have a dog, Chompy, who is always very excited to see us. And so this is about Chompy trying to get away. How the dog flattens himself to go under the neighbor's fence. It's hard, but not too hard to leave. And so the ones in that section are very much like that, all short and haiku-like. I'm going to set my watch here so I don't go over. Never trust a poet without a pocket watch. So here are some other seasonal ones. Outside cicada song, the green evening going gray. I've been inside all day. And then, I read a lot about music. There's music all throughout this collection. And one of the bands I like quite a bit is Truck Stop Honeymoon, which is from New Orleans, then settled in Wichita and Lawrence for a while, in Wichita, but played out in Lawrence a lot. And then now is in the UK. And so this is a concert I went to see in our town at Bourbon Cowboy, which featured Truck Stop Honeymoon. Truck Stop stores their stuff in the bright room behind the stage, come in and out of the hard rain and wring their hair, puddles up front. And that one's called Mop Up. We don't get out that much, but when we do, we try to see somebody we really like. Here is another of those haiku ones. At the edge of the board, there's a shadow the paint makes, the petals on the walk after rain. And there's a series of poems about a painting by Alison Skolnick called Skipping Skeletons, which you can see at the Nerman Gallery at Johnson County Community College. And this is one of the poems about thinking about that painting. Also, I love how during this time we can kind of meditate and think from our own homes and go and see things we wouldn't normally. Like, for instance, I've got to see Ann Waldman read live streamed, Jane Hirschfield, Jericho Brown. Also, when it comes to jazz, I've gotten to hear Kansas City folks, Mark Lowry, Jackie Myers, and then see the Jim reading series and music series. So I've enjoyed this opportunity to see things I wouldn't normally, and you probably have too. Here's another one of those Alison Skolnick poems. I tentatively titled it No One Notices. 1. No one notices the sky enough when they run. 2. But I've seen tomorrow coming, going, a white line. 3. Where will we go when we can no longer run, when I no longer have you to follow? And this painting is of two skeletons running kind of in love through flowers. It's beautiful if you have a chance to see it. And it's about 8 feet by 5 feet. It's huge. I'm not very good at lawn care, so this is one about that struggle. Outside, the sky's gone green. The weed whip line is in bits at the lawn's fringe, almost a nest. And the machine is on the sidewalk where it stopped. Down come the rain in purple drops. And here's another short poem, Long After the Dirty 30s. During storms, Grandma would stuff wet towels into the window sills, remembering when the dusk would come. There are a lot about Kansas. When it's cool enough evenings for a jacket, we call it Colorado weather. And we dream of that state just to the west of us, the one full of mountains. You probably noticed on the Kansas state flag, there are mountains, even though I don't think you can see them from here. You almost can. You know, I teach, I love to teach, and I write about being on campus. This is one of those. The leaf across the walk is a yellow 5-pointed star, like a blessing from the branches, like a report card stamped A+, all over the university. Yes, 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 yes. Come on over and walk across my fall carpet. You too can be a star. Another lawn poem. Lawn mown, I am ready, sky, erupt. And then there's a fireplace in the Union at Emporia State, and I love to sit by it and write. No one else ever sits by it that I've seen, and it runs all year round. So it can be July and there's still a fire going. I'm not sure why. It's a gas fire. Some say hell is full of fire and we should hate the flame. But I love those orange fingers, red and yellow mountains that reach for the moon. Of course, I can imagine the fire being where it belongs. That night, the stars like a breadcrumb trail, my hand on the envelope as I walk to the mailbox, eyes up, my feet know the way. And I think that may be Elliot arriving. So my sister lives in the Southwest, and there are saguaro there, the cactus that kind of look like people, green with their arms up often. And this is one about them, saguaro. Each limb took some 100 years to grow, rooted, planted in sand, the view miles and miles flat. And will we ever get back? And cottonwoods take a lot of water. This one gets into that. They take a lot of water, the cottonwoods, but in return, in wind, they sound oceanic. I love cottonwoods. I've got one more about trees. How the wind moves the leaves, each leaf like a note on the staff, a quick, busy run, 16th and 32nd notes all over and beyond the 5 lines. Okay, I'm going to move out of that section and into another one. You know, this is another one about going out to a club and listening to music. In this case, the main club in Emporia is Bourbon Cowboy. And our son is now old enough that we can do that. We can leave and he is okay. So I'm going to read this one down and I'm going to say a little bit of something after it. Rain date. Halfway through the sound check and they ask the bass to play and he riffs the first underworld level in Super Mario, including a few high, tinny coin hits. My son's middle school music teacher up on the stand with the band on a school night, opening act for an out-of-town act brought in by the rain. And that one's about Riley Day. He's pretty cool and he likes Super Mario Brothers. So there's that. I don't know if you know this, but in undergrad for a few semesters, I double majored in music and English. And I had this one tune that I write about here. I played percussion, and in this tune, I played bass drum. The only time I've been part of something oceanic, vast, whole whale big was once on drum with the orchestra, tufted mallet in hand, on a tune where I played this one note solo, kaboom. So that was a lot of counting. So I do have a bunch of pandemic poems. This is one. This is the one I read out the most, so I apologize if you've heard it before. It's So We Stay Home. So we stay home, watch the rain, gray day, the lawn greening, the yellow crocus up, trumpeting, and nowhere to go, no one to meet for lunch, the bog in the background. And so I listen to Mingus, Goodbye Pork Pie Hat, and pray for my parents in another town, and for jazz musicians out of work, home with their saxes and drums, rumbling somewhere like the Italian tenor, singing from his window to an empty, empty street. So you probably heard during the beginning of the pandemic, folks would sing out their windows, and Italy was one of the first places you could hear about that. So I really appreciate and research and write about Charlie Bird Parker, born in Kansas City, Kansas, and lived there until he was about 12 or 14, then to Kansas City, Missouri, and then throughout the world, California, New York City, etc. And this is one about Charlie Parker and about talking about Charlie Parker in New York City. Improv. The guy in the tie in the subway station shows us the way. Which train? Says from Kansas, what do you do? And I say, Professor, poet. And he says, tell me one. And I'm quiet, shy, but do recite Bird's Horn, one of the only ones I know by heart, smoothing the words to him and the others in the subway car. Our hands clamped to the silver pole, his head cocked my way, and he tells me this is Parker's town, and I say we claim him too. Bop genius, born in KCK, cut his teeth in KC his fast jazz sound stretching to the coast like a cigarette ghost, like a long, flat, cirrus cloud, like an unending river coming from the mouth of his golden saxophone. Coltrane said he didn't hear double time till he heard Bird, didn't know half of the things you could do. Okay, so there's one about Charlie Parker. If Charlie Parker had lived, he would be 100 years old right around this time. He was born in 1920. He lived to 34. So I'm going to read a few more of Charlie Parker poems. If you're not into Parker, you might as well be. Somebody that reshaped jazz. If you had to talk about two or three, Louis Armstrong, Charlie Parker, and on it goes. Bird Watcher. Dean Benedetti, alto sax and a dance band, went to gigs, recorded only the solos, only Bird, live in LA, like a man in the woods with a mic capturing bird song. Coda. It said Benedetti quit sax, sold drugs to keep following, listening hard for Bird. Here's another one about Dean Benedetti. Recording Bird from the can. Benedetti arrives early at the dial date in Hollywood, and the management says, no mics, no chords, and so Benedetti tacks an out of order sign onto one of the bathroom stalls, runs a discreet cord to the front table spot with a mic, and sits on the closed toilet seat, machine cradled on his lap, headphones clamped to his ears. So, if you've got an extra $200 or $400, you can get the Benedetti recordings on CD. It's hard to hear them. I went to the Mars Sound Archive at UMKC and listened to them years ago, and then recently when I got back into Bird, there's a super famous Bird session called Live at Massey Hall, a very short poem about that. More mosquito than Bird, his solo on All the Things You Are, on Grafton plastic saxophone. So Grafton made this plastic saxophone and used Parker to kind of front it, but it was horrible. If you got a little crack or a hole in it, it was done. And he played just a gig or two with this saxophone. You can see it in Kansas City at the American Jazz Museum on 18th and Vine. It's there, it's beautiful, but delicate. Bird's Table. Bird would sleep under the pool table at Tootie's Mayfair at 75th and Warnell. When he went out, he went all out. And then this is one that plays upon some quotes from Chan Parker's My Life in E Flat, a kind of musical biography, autobiography, Bird at 100. It's the year Bird would have turned 100 if he had lived, but he didn't. He lived fast and didn't get the care he needed and used the needle and drank. Bird said he'd give an ulcer man $75 to cool my ulcer, give a heart man $100 to fix his heart, and none of it worked. But he'd give a little cat in a dark alley $5 for a bag of shit, and my ulcer's gone, and my heart trouble all gone. You may know that Charlie Parker was in a horrible car crash coming to or from Musser Resort in the Ozarks, and it busted up his spine, and the doctors prescribed heroin, which he never got completely off of. Okay, so I've got some about musicians. Here's a short one. I had a stroke, couldn't touch my nose, had to work my way back up to single stroke rolls. The bassy way. There's this way of flattening out the beat while still swinging that bassy way. DW taught us how to chick the hi-hat so that it was like dancing, sidestep, sashay, shuffle, a circle of shoes on dance floor, and sand. I don't know if you know this, but sometimes when things start to get going, folks will throw down some sand and soft shoe at a club. Let's see here. We're going to move out of the music section for a second here. A swing set, its feet trembling, and above and below the chants and shrieks of children. Okay, some of them are kind of not all serious. Here is a non-serious one. Walking the trail, holiday lights, Lenexa. When the little kid on the lit trail says, "Mommy, how did they get all the lights up there?" Mom says, "Squirrels, lots and lots of trained squirrels." This sounds a little weirder than it is, but I love to watch people explaining things to kids. I've got a number of poems about that. Here's another one. The toddler girl in her too tall stocking cap reaches for something rustling in the Walmart parking lot. Pink paper and a flash of silver. "Leave it, baby," says her mother. "That's trash." Looked pretty good to me too, but she didn't get to pick it up. My son he's 17. He's going to start at Emporia State as a freshman in August. And I was thinking, there's a number of poems kind of about me thinking about that time in my life. And at youth group, this odd conversation happened. Red says he wants to be a metal bull rider or a preacher. This is at church. I'd say, I'd like to make maps, mark T's where I've been, maybe walk like Jesus, sandals on sand. I don't know how much I did of that, but that was my wish, to walk around places in, I guess, Birkenstocks. Here are some kid poems. When I kicked the red ball, it'd always go up and up and up, time enough for anyone to get under it. I could round third and it'd still be up and would get caught and I'd be out, almost home. Let's see, that's probably almost enough of that. Let's do one wimpy kid poem. I was small. Between 7th and 8th grade, I grew a number of inches and I got to play basketball. But before that, I was small. So here's a kind of short bit about that. When Spindly held Sam up against the lockers, Spindly's fists at Sam's shoulders, pinning him. I thought of Spider-Man, how he would have cocked his legs and given Spindly a quick kick and sprung into the room, taken all of those pock-faced bullies out. Middle school was like that. Bullies fighting their own faces with razors and zit cream, then taking it all out on you, hoping to turn your face red too. We learned to ball our fists when we heard our names. Don't wait. Don't get hit before you're ready to put at least one punch up. At least draw a purple bruise across the chin or chest. Leave a mark before you go down. That way you might not be the mark next time. That way they know you have some scrap in you. We were all little. We were alone when gym was done. There in the locker room. The only time I saw Coach stop a fight, all he did was turn all of the shower heads on. The room soon a cloud, and the little ones, we fled first from the plume, as if behind us there'd been a fire or a bomb. We never looked back, not for fear we'd turn to salt, but because everyone knows you run better if you never ever turn. So there's a longer one. Let's see. How are we doing on time? We're okay. Let's see. I'm going to read one about a trampoline. We used to have a trampoline, and I think this is how Elliot, our son, got some of his exercise. They're super fun, and I love them too. Here's one about a trampoline. I remember how my niece said, "I didn't think you had it in you," watching me float into the trees in her backyard when I was 30, how she'd always seen me as too stiff to rise above, to bend and kick my way into the clouds. When our son grew old enough, we got one for our own backyard, and my favorite part was lying on my back on the tarp with my wife, clasping hands, looking up at the stars. We were not on the ground and not in the sky, but resting above the bugs, above dirt, as if on a ship sailing. Those points of light around us, those points of light around the moon, like guideposts we once sailed to. One year the winds came and that trampoline jumped a chain link fence and landed in someone else's backyard. Our son grown, we left it where it landed. Okay, so that one's not completely true. I only heard this story about the trampoline taking off and landing, but it makes a better poem if that's how ours left. No one says it has to be memoir. Maybe somebody does, but not me. So I'm going to move on to some other, another section. You know, I like geek culture, and I find it interesting that now everybody knows who the X-Men are and everybody knows who Iron Man is. And this one, I kind of liked Rogue when I was young. Rogue's the one who can put you in a coma with a simple kiss. Wants love, wears gloves. That was one of my favorite X-Men. Back to Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker's first wife was Rebecca. Rebecca's got on a wide-brimmed hat and new dress at the courthouse, her hand in Bird's hand, though they don't yet call him that. 15, and she's marrying a sax man, and Bird, he forgets the ring, but his mother slips off hers, lets them use that. And these are true stories. I didn't make up any of the Bird stuff. I don't know if they're out there, but I when I sit in church, I write notes. I used to doodle, but I write notes and sketches and things when I'm in church. This is taken from church. I haven't gone in a long time. It's dangerous, but anyway. We were both from West Texas, cattle country, going to college in liberal Colorado. She lived with vegetarians, Every once in a while, we'd go on a date, eat meat. So that's dedicated to the folks here in town. I'll read the title poem. Has anybody heard the song by Extreme, More Than Words? Now, I love the sound of the song. I'm not that crazy about the words or message, but it was kind of beautiful if you weren't listening to the words. More on cassette, More Than Words. Kept on cassette in my white 67 Mustang Fastback, Extremes More Than Words. And I kept it on all June through August when summer dumped me, drove through those gray burb streets, slow with that song always on. Okay, so there's the title poem. Let's go ahead and do some other stuff. Some people asked about the pandemic poems, so I'm skipping to that section. And we'll do some more. Love in the Time of Coronavirus, number 1. I think I wrote 5 of these. Lisa and I watch a bad movie, and after we hold hands like 2 kids at the theater, like young lovers on her KC apartment couch. We don't know if the bug will pass over our house like a death angel. And so we remind ourselves it's just us here in this room this evening, our son gaming in his own room, his fingers clicking over the keys, face bathed in blue computer light. No blood smeared over the doorway. It's just we 3 alone in this house. The wind outside like a monster. The streets all empty. The streets all empty of cars. And so Lindsay has some kind of videos prepared here where I'm drumming. And so I'm just going to read 2 more, and then we'll get to see some things that are produced. Whoever thought I would be a studio poet. So I'll do one, at least one political poem. There'll be one in the videos too. But Kansas gubernatorial candidate Chris Koba rode in a parade in Shawnee on a Jeep that had an imitation M2 50 caliber machine gun mounted on it. And I had to write about that. Somebody told me this story. I won't reveal them right now. I was handing out maps at the Rotary table at old Shawnee days, the parade going by, and all of a sudden it gets deathly quiet, the kind of quiet when someone falls off a float or a horse goes down in the street, and we look, and Kobach's going by with his big gun mounted to a Jeep, and the girls and boys are clinging to their mothers, grabbing hold of a leg or going under a skirt, and the Jeep wheels go by like an anvil storm cloud, some wondering when the shooting will begin, the gubernatorial candidate waving, one hand on a machine gun, one hand in the air. Okay, I know that's arresting and unsettling, but I'm going to stop there. So I guess rock the vote when the next chance comes. And thanks for listening. We've got some video stuff here where I sound better than live. Thank you so much.
Do have a couple of videos to share with you. Videos that Kevin and Dave Liker, who is in this, created and produced together. So thank you, Dave. Thank you, Kevin. Dave, is
We
there
had a
anything?
good time putting those together, didn't we, Kevin? It almost looks like we had a plan.
Yes.
They're mostly just having fun, and then we throw them together and see what happens.
Regarding the taunting of Nathan Phillips, Omaha elder. I've seen the video of those white boys in red hats who surrounded the man with his drum. That smile they gave him, bully smile, smug, taunting him to come to blows. Teach me peace, Martin. Teach me peace, Dr. King. Help me to stand with my brothers and sisters of color when the red hats come. when the red hats come to silence the drum. Waiting for the train with Dave. Boxcars, boxcars, boxcars. Where are you going? Where have you been? Do you carry seed or coal or dreams? Boxy and gargantuan, metal anvil on wheels. I see your beauty, and I stay the hell out of the way. At the Curtis Cafe in Stafford, Kansas. When I die, I will rise in a small town diner with a seat that faces the Main Street window, and all of the silverware and water glasses and tabletops will shine with afternoon light, and I will know no one who comes in through the front door and sits and eats. We will all watch the street lamps illuminate the uneven brick street and wait for afternoon to pass on into evening, full of shadows, jagged and irregular, the street filling up with darkness in the way coffee fills up a pale coffee cup.
I have a question.
Yes. Hey, Waskar.
Hi, Kevin. How you doing?
Good.
So you're a video poet now. How's that feel to make that transition? And did you feel it was necessary right now with the way that we're sharing poetry?
Yeah, this, until you said that, I hadn't thought of it. So it's just hit me. But I mean, it's one way of doing things when we can't see each other in person. And so I really enjoy working with Dave to get the poems out to folks, even though many of us are at home. And my favorite picture of you is in Dave's studio with your book. Yeah.
I was about to say that. I was like, and Dave is an amazing photographer, is taking some amazing pictures of me. Really captured my energy, and yeah, he's amazing.
Oh, well, thank you for that, really. You're on my wall here, and you're going to be on a wall in Marysville in a couple of days, setting up a big exhibit down there, and I think they're going to look forward to.
Oh, that's amazing.
Faces, up on the walls there, but very proud of that photo. Thank you for letting me do it.
I appreciate the invitation. Kevin, I came to town to see you that day, and you walked me over there. I thank you for that experience and introducing me to Dave.
My pleasure. We're lucky in that even with a town of 20,000 or so, there are a lot of artists here, and that we work together, and there's a community. So writers, visual artists, musicians, etc. We're lucky that there's so much abundance of art in this town.
That's something Kevin and Lindsay and I are working on highlighting a little bit too, almost like artists and angelic intervention, doing the arts downtown. So when Kevin and I were out doing this, we were just experimenting to see how arts would look on the street. But we need more people. So we're thinking maybe a first Friday night, something where there's people on the street gathered around. populate it. It's going to be great fun.
It looks like Gabe might have a question too.
Hey Kevin, got a question for you. Your process specifically when you're, even though if it doesn't feel like you can write, sometimes you get those feelings like nothing's happening. Do you still go to the table and write, even though it may not be happening that day?
Yeah, I mean, I do write every day, and Lisa can attest to that. Sometimes I don't write things that I can share with anyone, but I do, try to sit in that space, maybe read a little while if it's not going well, sit and watch, the wind move over the grass blades, sit at the kitchen table and, eat something and write. There are all sorts of different ways. Listen to music and write. I especially like listening to music without words and writing. My favorites right now are Miles Davis, Keith Jarrett, and Chick Corea. Chick Corea passed away just a little while ago, so listening to him a lot. John Coltrane, etc. Locals, Jackie Myers and Mark Lowry. Those are folks I'm listening to a lot right now too. But also, just allowing whatever comes to come and write it down and then shape it later or abandon it and go to the next thing. So, I just really enjoy the process. You may, I don't know if this is the same way for you, but sometimes when I'm working for, work, I'll take a break and write poems. So it's to me, a pleasure to be able to do that. Like I look forward to it. It's not work. Now, revision can be work, and there are a lot of other parts of the process that are work, but just writing, envisioning, free writing, etc. I just love to do it. It's one of my favorite things. And that's not that it often turns out, but it's still, I like fishing around in my brain to see what's there. And like the Omaha Elder poem, there was a Martin Luther King celebration coming. I saw that disturbing video of the interrupted protest and was thinking about it on paper. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I've fought the weed whip line, the grass mower thing, and I had to eventually write about it, talking about something on the other side of the spectrum, meaning something dull and droll, but the weed eater. I mean, I have a constant battle with that thing. And so eventually it would make its way into what I was writing about. I am bad with the weed eater. Oh, there's a question in the chat. So let's see here. How do you organize the sheer quantity of writing when you're so prolific? And Julie has like all of my poem, all of my books, I think. And thanks, Julie. And also I think one of my first sales of one of my books is a check that she wrote. And I used to have it tacked to my wall in my office saying, hey, somebody bought my book. But how prolific? I think it's the William Stafford thing where I lower my standards and just keep writing. And eventually something good comes. Jazz musicians are used to kind of fiddling around, trying things out. And then if something starts to work, go with that and write on it for a while. And if nothing works, keep toying around with different ideas until something does. Often when you're trying to compose a drum solo, create a drum solo, you'll try something here on the hi-hat, try something on the tom, try something back and forth from the bass drum, and then you're like, okay, can I put these things together? Was any of those working better than the others? Oh, the hi-hat thing was going well. Why don't I try something on that? I mean, my process, I guess, metaphorically works a little bit like that, trying different things out. And I've had people say to me, why do you have so many styles or different kinds of poems in a book? And it's like, well, that's what I came up with. I'd have to throw 4/5 of them out if they weren't that way. So how do I organize them? Yeah, this year. Okay, so I've got that one. I don't know. The easy answer is Lindsay organizes them right now. So I have to give credit where credit is due. Lindsay was the curator of this book, so she should get the credit for that. But when it's not Lindsay doing it, in this case, we put them out, put all the poems out on a surface like the kitchen floor or something, and start putting them into piles. The one that seem to work thematically or subject wise or style wise, and then anything that doesn't fit goes to the next book or recycling. And so we just start putting things together until we have something. And if I don't have enough, I have to go back and write for another 2 or 3 months until we can bring it together. There are other ways, like I have written poems like this is all these poems are about Eliot's violin. So that sort of thing too. But putting them all on the floor and putting them in stacks by that's how it usually goes. Yeah. So those are good questions. We should probably go just a little bit longer. So if people need to get on to something else, they can. And if you tune out, I'm not going to feel bad either. I know we got things to do. But maybe one more question.
Kevin, I got one. You touched on it briefly, and I'm going to pick up on it when you were talking about your drumming experimentations. Other than writing about jazz music itself, how does being a drummer work itself into what you write? And do you think you would write any differently if you were, say, a saxophone player or a keyboard player?
Right. I would probably be more melodic if I were a saxophone player or a pianist, but you never know. I mean, drummers are always trying to be melodic. So there's that. A sense of sound and things I can say using my own patterns of speech. Ginsberg called it the breath unit, the way that he would, he'd read until he had to take a breath, start some more lines. But I really think part of what shaped the way I say my poems and write them came from when I used to do this gig at the Cup and Saucer in the River Market in Kansas City, where I would say poems with a saxophone playing with me, and also drums sometimes at the same time. So we had this gig where we would perform just poems and jazz, and it shaped my style. Everything changed then. And I can hear how I would say things as I type them out, but when I was starting, I would say it out loud as I typed it to see if it worked. And I guess now if I'm stuck, I should do that again. But they're meant to be said. I think the poems are better when they're aloud when it comes to me. There are lots of different ways of being, but that's my process. Well, I don't know if Lindsay or Tracy has any sign-off wisdom or words, but we should probably let you go so you can enjoy the rest of your weekend. But I really appreciate you spending time with me. If you want, I'll hang out here for a while, but I really appreciate you being here. Enjoy the book, and enjoy the poetry. Keep the poetry in your life.
I would like to just say thank you. Thank you to all of you for coming. And I want to say thank you to Kevin again. It's always a pleasure to add a Kevin book to the Meadowlark bookshelf. And I think most of you probably know this. Meadowlark wouldn't be here without Kevin. He's a champion of the arts, and he's a person who just spreads a kind of we can do it energy. His creativity is contagious, and I really appreciate his friendship and the advice and wisdom he shared with me over the years. Thank you, Kevin, and it's very exciting to have this book added to our collection. And thank you, all of you, for coming. It's so much fun to see all these faces.
Thank you, Tracy, for feeling like this is a book that you wanted to help put into the world. We are very grateful.
Great job, Kevin.
Thanks.
Great to hear you, man.
Thanks, Reber. Good to see you. It's been too long.
What, this rework just showing up in the background here? Like, is it like a? Hey man, hi.
Everybody, it's so good to see you. Again, you are the reason we do these things. And we know your lives are chock-block full of Zoom meetings. So really, really thank you for taking this opportunity to spend a poetic Saturday evening with us. So much love for you all and for this medium and all of the arts. Make sure you grab a copy of More Than Words if you can. We have it available at the Meadowlark bookstore, and Kevin has some copies on him. But you're also able to order it through any of your favorite bookstores or even the big bookstores too. So it is available to you. We'll do this again soon. Everybody.